whoops, that opening was not recorded. That'll be fine. All right. So when you open Godot, you'll end up with a window like this. Any projects you're working on will be in this bigger body of it, which if you just got it, you'll basically have, well, nothing. And on the right side, you can go ahead and create new projects, import some, and in general, just edit them and the like. Now we're going to go ahead and create a new project, which will show you something like this. And we're going to go ahead and call this Godot 3D demo. That's not useful demo, that is. And it'll give you a little error at first because you don't have a folder. So we'll just go ahead and click this to create one, which will make that good. And then when you're ready, you can go ahead and click on Create and Edit, which will create the project and start to open it up. So this will take a few seconds. For you, it might be faster. All right. So this is what Godot will look like when you first open it up. It'll be completely blank in a 3D scene. Well, technically not a 3D scene yet. You have to specify that. Now, since we'll be doing a 3D game, we will go ahead and select that. But if you click the wrong option, you want to make a different scene or whatever, you're always welcome to click this little plus button here, and you can go ahead and make more scenes, and you can delete last ones and do whatever you want with those. So, right now we don't really have anything. We just have this lonely little node here. So to make it so we can at least have something, we're going to go ahead and start adding our floor. And to do that, we're going to get what is called a static body 3D. So you'll see here under the Node 3D section, and you can also just search for it. So we'll go ahead and create that. That again won't really have much yet. So in order to make it so it actually has something we can see, we're going to go ahead and search for a, wait, that's the wrong thing. Oh yeah, actually there. We'll need a collision shape 3D, which will be what we'll use to give it a collision. So you can actually bump into it. And then we're going to go ahead and give it a mesh, which will actually allow us to, well, see it. So to start off with, we'll go to the mesh. On the right over here, you'll see a little empty thing. You can click on that, and then we're going to go ahead and make this a box. So you'll see new box mesh. We'll click on that. Then to edit that, we'll just click on this again. That'll give us our size options, and we're going to go ahead and make it 120 in terms of length, 120 in width, and then just make it in height. So that already gets us our nice shape here, but if you were to put someone on this, they'd fall through and just go into the infinite abyss. So we're going to go ahead and give this an actual collision. To do that, it's similar where we're going to give this a box shape. Then we'll click on that. We'll give this the same properties as before. And to verify that you did this correctly, you should see that there's a little blue line here that kind of highlights the outside of your box. That shows your collider around it. Now at this point, oh yeah. Are you guys good? Oh.
Could you explain a little bit more about the hierarchy process?
Oh yeah. So, all right. So you might be wondering about well, you'll see these are kind of like staggered in how they're shown. They're indented. That's basically because what we're doing is we're making children essentially for these. Since in programming we have parents and we have children, at least in object-oriented programming. So if we do something to adjust the parent node, that will go ahead and affect the children nodes. And the children nodes in this case can also do some things to give properties to the parent node. In this case, the children here are the mesh and the collider, and those are giving the collisions and the actual shape we can see to the parent node, which is just the static body. Oh. So I can show this real quick. You'll right-click on the static body. You'll go to Add Child Node, and then to get mesh, you can just type in mesh, and you should see mesh instance 3D. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I did that, and now how I actually get
Oh. So when you click on mesh, you'll go over to, do you see empty thing over there? Yeah, click on empty. And then what you should see, hang on, I'll go ahead and reset this. So you go there, you'll see box mesh. You see that? So click that, and then you'll get a nice box, but of course we don't want a box. So we'll click on that a second time, and then you should see size show here. And then in that case, you can type in your dimensions. So we'll do 120 in terms of the x, 120 in the z, and then 2 in terms of for the y for the height. Does that make sense? Okay. And then you do a similar thing for the collision where you should have an empty thing over here. Then you could select box shape. And then when you want to add in the size, you'll just click that a second time and I'll give you the size options. Does anyone have any other questions or need for help? Oh, yes? Oh, that's just because you're zoomed in. So, yeah, like we could just do this, and you see,
That's cool.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Have you two achieved in creating a floor?
We're doing so well right now. Totally. Yeah. That's what we're making.
How's your box coming?
Boxing,
Hmm. Do you understand the change the size? Oh, I'll show you. So, yep, you're on. We can go to mesh, then click on that thing. Oh, yep, yep. Just click on the box, and then you'll see size below.
How do I make it visible? It's invisible right now. It exists.
I think
Theoretically.
I think part of the issue there is that it is visible. It's just you did the dimensions differently.
Yeah, it's like 120 by 2 by 2.
120 to 120.
You did it backwards. Sorry.
Hey, you got close.
I told you to make it 2.
And then let's see. There you go. And then you have your collider as well.
Collision shape. I put it on there.
Let's see. Click on that, and you just need to set your size.
Oh, it has to be.
Yep. Does anyone? So do people still need time to catch up, or are they? Okay. All right. We all have nice, happy floors. So next, to make this a little easier, we'll just go ahead and add a directional light. This isn't something you always need, but it's just something nice to have since sometimes when you look at it, shadows will be a little weird. So we're going to go ahead and add that, which should result in you seeing a giant shadow on your map when you add it, probably. So you can drag this up so you can get a better look at it, and then you'll see these circles around it. These circles let you rotate the light. And if you use the red one, wait, no, that's the wrong one. If you use the blue, which one is it? Okay, yeah, it is the red one. So you can just drag this until you like how it looks. Because that'll basically change the direction of how the sun is hitting your map. Does that make sense? Okay. So yeah. So we just need something for now so that when we add in the next thing, which will actually be our player, that it won't look weird on top of the map. So to add our player, we're going to add what's called a character body 3D. You can find this like before, where we create a child on Node 3D. And this one is different from the static body, where A, it can move, and also it's much more meant for you to actually give scripts to making it move instead of just letting it be based on whatever physics you have going on. So we're going to go ahead and click create. And like our static body, we do need to give it a mesh and also a collision shape. So we'll go ahead and add that. So we'll do mesh instance 3D like before. And this time we'll also do the collision shape 3D as well. And then we'll go ahead and also give it a camera so we can actually follow our player. Now, first we're going to go give it a mesh, and in this instance, we're going to go ahead and actually give it a capsule. So you can see this. You're going to want to take your green arrow up here, which is your Y, and you're going to want to drag that up until you see your capsule. And that's just so you can help see what the rest you're going to be doing. So once you get your mesh set up, which we'll just leave on its default dimensions. Oh, yes?
Could you please go over again the difference between a mesh and a collision?
Oh, yeah. So a mesh is basically just like what you'll see on the screen. It's more of like a graphical sort of thing. You're not really, if you hit just a mesh like without collisions, you just go through the mesh. It's not really gonna do anything physics-wise. So that's where the collider comes in, where you can't see the collider, but it's actually what stops things from moving into each other. All right. So we got our little capsule here in the mesh, and then in the collision shape, we'll do a similar thing where we'll go ahead and create another capsule. And let's make sure that's looking correct. Oh, yeah. I'll go ahead and clear this. So you'll basically do it like you did for the box before, where you click on empty, and then under box, you'll see capsule mesh. Does that make sense for everyone? Okay. And I realized for this, so one thing you need to be careful of actually is a little mistake I just did there, where if you're transforming something like dragging like I did, you're gonna want to drag it when you're selecting character body 3D, which is the parent, because the parent is the one you want to be changing the position for everyone, rather than just having your mesh off, because otherwise your collision will look kind of weird. So if you did what I did before, what you can do to reset it is go to your transform tab over here, and you'll see position. So what you'll want for your mesh instance, collision shape, or any of these ones that are under character body 3D is just zeros. But if you didn't drag it before, then you'll be fine. So we can go ahead back to character body 3D, and we can actually drag it up correctly this time. So we have that. And then finally, we'll go ahead and do our camera. So in order for it to be looking top down at us, we'll be giving it a position of 6 for the Y, which will position it a bit above the player. But if we don't rotate it, then it won't really be looking at us. So we're going to go ahead and give it a rotation, the x-axis of 90. Actually, negative 90, sorry. And with that, you should be able to look up here, and you'll see your camera, and it should be oriented down towards your player. Has everyone been able to follow along? Okay. Oh, let me see. Oh, that's just because you need to set the shape. So go there. And then do just capsule. Yep. So okay. Get you that. And oh. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Right. Well, what you can do is you can go to both of those, go to your transform, and set that to 0. And you just gotta do that for your mesh instance as well. And then your character body is what you need selected when you drag it up. Okay. There we go. And then for your camera, you just need to change your X rotation, and then you'll have it pointed at right at your person. I have it pointed so I just need to align it. Yeah. You can just go to transform. Oh, or I can just drag it down like that, right? Yeah, you can drag it. Transform is just usually easier for making the precise things. Yeah. Hmm. All right. So does everyone have this sort of thing? Okay. So at this point, if we were to just drop our player, they could claw out the floor, but they wouldn't actually do anything. So we need to actually give it a script so it can do stuff. To do that, we'll right-click on our character body 3D, and then under that, you'll see attach script. So you'll click that, and then it'll give you this option. Now, it'll give you a path here. You could just create it with that, but in this case, we're just going to call it player script. Or you can call it anything you wish. It's not really going to affect it. And then when you got that typed in, go ahead and click create. and then you'll see some code like this. Now, this for Godot, when you do a script for a character body, it'll give you a lot of basic movement script. So if you would like, you could use this, but we're going to go ahead and show you how you can actually code your own so you can get a little bit more of an understanding for Godot scripting. So I'll just get rid of all this. Now, to start off, we need to set some constants. So const is what we use for constant, and then we're going to set our speed, and we're going to do that to 200. Next, we'll do const gravity equal 9.8, which you probably remember from physics if you took it. And after we do that, we'll go ahead and start setting up the main function we'll be using, which will be func physics process. And when you start typing physics, you'll see this little physics process thing show up. So instead of having to type the whole thing, you can just press tab, and it'll just give you it. And then you press enter, and you'll go to the next line. And this is where we're going to be typing all of our movement scripts. And the reason why we do it in this function is that this one is called like periodically by Godot, so we can go ahead and get constant movement via our inputs with that. Now before we do that, we need to actually go and set up what inputs we'll be using. So what Godot does is you have to go set up an input map. Now we're going to go to project up here, go to project settings, and then when you get in there, you'll see input map. So we'll click that, and then when you're there, we can start setting up our inputs. So we're going to go to add new action, and we're first going to put forward. And then when you got that, you can either press enter or just click add. Next, we'll do backward, like a similar way. Then left, right, and jump. And then to tie these to certain keys that can actually be used by our program, we'll click on this plus arrow to whichever one we want to add to, and it'll show add events. So we click that, and then you type whatever key you want to use. So I'll be using generic WASD, so I'll do W, and then once you get that, click OK, and it'll add that under there under forward. So we can do a similar thing for backward. We'll press S, and then we'll click OK. And left, we're going to do A, click OK. Right, click, let me press D, click OK. And then jump, we'll just use spacebar. So press your spacebar and click OK. So these will be all the inputs in our game. So with that, we click close. Oh yeah. I can go ahead and show that so everyone can see it. If your input map looks something like this, then you'll be good. Does anyone not have that? All right. So I'll go ahead and continue. So now we can actually start using those inputs. So to do that, we're going to start making an if statement, which will basically check if a certain thing is true or false. So in this case, we'll do if input dot is action pressed. And if you want, when you see these little predictions pop up, you can use your arrow keys to go down to them, and then you can press tab, and it will go ahead and make those for you. So in this case, I'm going to do forward. And then to go to the next part of the if statement, I'll put a colon, and then go to the next line. And now we can put what code will be done once we do that. So in this case, we want to be moving forward, which will be in our z direction, or negative z direction. So we'll do velocity dot z, then minus equal, which means that it will take the current value of it and subtract what we're putting behind this, which will be speed times delta. And we use delta here because that is basically kind of used to make sure that if your frame rate's a little off, you still get the same type of movement. So, oh, sorry about the semicolon, that's just JavaScript leaking in. So we'll go ahead to the next line. And then we'll do the same sort of thing. So we'll do if input dot is action pressed. This time we'll do backward. And then we can just go ahead and copy and paste this. But instead of doing a minus equal, we'll just do a plus equal. So that'll be make us go forward and backwards. And then we can copy and paste that whole thing again. And what we'll do is we'll switch this to left, this to right, and then instead of our z direction, we're going to do this in our x direction. And if it starts trying to give you stuff here and that interferes with your program, you can just simply click off that once you type in whatever you need to do. So this here is basically just changing our velocity so we can actually move in those directions. Now, that will sort of work, but to really make that work, we actually need to go ahead and call a certain function called move and slide. This is a built-in Godot function that will take our velocities and move our character and account for collisions. So it's a very simple one you'll use a lot if you're using velocities to move. Now, we'll also go ahead and start adding in our jump. So we'll do if input dot is action pressed. That will do jump. Now, whereas before we just wanted our little input, we actually need to account for a few things. So we're going to do get slide collision count, and we're just going to call that, and then we'll check if that's greater than 0, which basically means that's just checking to make sure we're actually on the ground when we're jumping. We're not really making a game where you can sort of just double jump to infinity. That's a little not so great for a parkour game. And then to also help check with that, we're going to check our velocity in the y direction and make sure that is less than 1. Then we'll give that a colon. And then finally, we'll do velocity dot y plus equal speed times delta. And then because we need a little more force when jumping, we're going to do times 25. So this would go ahead and give us movements, but we wouldn't really have friction, so we just kind of go everywhere. So the last few things we'll go ahead and do is just do some little fine touching for our velocity. So at the start of your function, you're going to go back and do velocity.y minus equal gravity divided by 2. That's basically just going to simulate gravity on your character. So making sure they're actually falling down when they're supposed to. And then lastly, after your move and slide, we're going to reset our velocity x and z. So velocity z equals 0, then velocity x equals 0. So I'll give you guys a few seconds just to get all this, and then we can go ahead and test this to make sure our player actually moves. Are you guys good over there? Maybe I can just tilt this towards you. Oh, that wire's, I might need to tilt it. Oh, wait. Okay, maybe that doesn't like being moved. All right. Are you about good? All right. So I'll go ahead and click play, which you'll see is up here, and it also will say run project. So it will look like your play button on like YouTube or whatever. So you click that, and usually you go into project settings and you're going to set what scene you want to start when you play something. But in this case, since we haven't done that, we're just going to do select current. And we haven't saved this scene, so we got to save it something. So in this case, we're just going to do main scene, or you can really save it whatever you like. Then when you're done, just click save. And now, this will open up, and we'll see our little guy. Now the issue is, of course, there's not really much going on our level. So actually, when we move around, we can't really tell what we're doing. So that means we can go ahead and add a few objects. So when you're done looking at your little guy that you can't really see move, you can go ahead and click the stop running button or just X out the little demo here. And we'll go back to our 3D view. And then we're going to start off by adding a rigid body. So we're going to go back to the 3D node up there. We're going to do add child node. And then start typing in rigid. And then you'll see rigid body 3D down here. Oh, yes?
How did you get back there?
Oh, I'll show you real quick. So if you want to switch between like your script and your 2D or 3D or whatever, you just have these little things up here. So script brings you back to your last script, and 3D brings you to your 3D view. You can even still add your nodes from your script. It's just, oh, yes?
Sorry, I was just gonna ask, what scale did you set your floor to?
I just did like 120 like in terms of the X, 2 in the Y, and 120 in the Z.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter as long as you just have a large floor that's not just terribly high, because that's not really conducive to moving around. And you good?
So is there like an undo? I think I might have
Oh, let's see. Oh, okay, yeah, it looks like your scene kind of is gone.
Yeah.
So we we could try and undo. We could just do a Control Z, but I'm not sure if that will. Yeah, I don't think it gives you an undo in this situation.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all good.
Well, for those who are still able to follow along and their scene did not delete itself, we'll go ahead and add a child node to our node 3D up here. And then we'll add this rigid body 3D. And like before, it's kind of similar to your static body, but it will actually be able to move. But it won't be unscripted, it'll just kind of sit there. So we got to add a mesh like before, so we'll do mesh instance 3D. Then go back to that and give it a collision. So collision shape 3D. And then this time we'll similarly click on the empty, go to new box mesh, click on the box here, and then give it a size. Now we just want some cubes, so we're going to get a 5, 5, and 5. So that'll just give us a nice little cube here. We're going to do the same thing on our collision here. So click on that, go to 5, 5, 5. And then if we want this to be anywhere, we're just going to drag that up. And you can use your middle mouse button to rotate your view if you need to. And then you're going to use the blue arrow here to move it like in your z-axis, and your red to move it in your x-axis. So that'll just be a little cube here that we can go run into. If we want to test it out, we can play our game again. And if you go, you should be able to actually find your cube. You can make sure you can jump on it. Now the problem is that with everything being the same texture, you can't really tell the difference between the floor of your actual floor and the cube. But there's a solution to that. So we're going to go ahead and go back to our rigid body. We're going to go to our mesh. And then down here, you're going to see material. You'll click on empty and material. And then you're going to do new standard material 3D. Everyone see that? Okay. So we're going to do that. It's going to take a little second. Or if it didn't do that, click it again. There we go. So when you get that, you should see that sphere. You'll click on that sphere, and it'll give you a lot of options. But in this case, what we're interested in is this albedo option. So you'll see that under your vertex color. So we'll click on that. And if you want to, you can change the color. But in this case, we want to apply a texture. So we'll click on the empty here under texture. And then it gives you a lot of options. But we're going to go ahead and click load. So we'll click load. Oh, yeah. Click load. And then you'll see this icon here that's always included in Godot. So everyone should be able to click this one. and it'll give a little texture to our cube when we click open. Now, it's a very ugly texture, so when you're doing your own games, you'll probably want to make your own unique textures for your blocks, but this is just so we can differentiate it between the floor and just the cube itself. So with that, we actually got our cubes we can use to set up our little level. So what we can do is we can right click on our rigid body, click copy. Then we're going to go to our node 3D, right click, click paste, and then we get a new one, and we can use these arrows to move it around. So we're going to do that. We can also rotate it around a little. And then we'll go ahead and make a few more. So we can start making our little path we're going to parkour on. Everyone able to follow along with this? Okay. So you can do whatever sort of path you want. I'm just making a basic little one so I can show how this works.
Can you add a texture to the sky body 3D?
Oh yeah, I can show real quick. It's the same way you do it for the boxes, where you go to your mesh instance here. You'll go to your material. Then you're going to do your new standard material 3D. Click that. Click on your sphere. And then go to your albedo. So you could load a texture like we did before, but since our only texture is that very wonky looking Godot logo, we'll just go ahead and click color, and we can go ahead and use our RGB values to make something. So we're gonna make this like a weird green, though that's a little bright. So we'll do that. Does that help? Okay. So with that, we've got a little bit going on here. And I'm just going to right click and paste one more of these objects. So we have these, and you can see all of them here. If you want to see which one is which, you can either click on them like on here, and it'll go to their mesh instance, or you can just right click this, and you'll just be able to see which one is selected. So what we're also going to do is go to our transform here, and we just want this one to be a little bigger. So we're going to change it scale down here, which is in its transform. We're going to change it to 1.2. So when you do that, these are all linked together, so it'll just make the cube uniformly bigger. And that will also apply to all of its children, so the mesh and the collision. So you don't need to go and individually change all those. So we can do that for a few of these, just to make it a little harder when we're going to go moving around on them. So go back down here, do like a 1.5 scale. And yeah, so those would be the stuff we'll parkour on. And lastly, we're going to go ahead and paste one more thing, but this one's going to be different. So we're going to drag this one up in Y, and we're going to go and position it over one of our other ones. So we'll put it over here. Then when we got this, we're going to go to its mesh, and we're going to change it. So instead of it being a box, we're going to make it a prism. So it's going to be kind of small like that, but that's fine for our purposes. Then we'll go to its material, since that just got reset. And instead of it being the Godot logo, we're just going to go to albedo, color, and we're just going to make it red. So we know what we're looking for. Then we'll go down to our collision shape. And similar thing, we're going to go click on this arrow. We're going to do, actually, we're just going to do a new box shape, because prisms are not in there, so for the sake of convenience, we're just going to give it a box collision. It doesn't matter that it's not the same shape. We're just going to collide with the box instead of the prism itself, if that makes sense. So with that, this guy's going to fall down on that cube there, and that's going to be our little endpoint. Now, we need to actually be able to detect that. And to do that, we're going to go over to our character body again. We're going to do add child node. Is everyone still able to follow along? Okay. Add child node, area. We're going to do area 3D, which is similar to collisions, but it's not actually going to stop you from moving through. Rather, it's actually used to detect if you move into something. So we're going to get that. Create that as a child on your character node. And once you have that, it's going to need its own collision. So instead of adding a child node to your character, you're going to add it to your area 3D. So I'm going to go to collision shape 3D like you did before, create that, click on your empty, then you're going to make your little capsule like you did before. But whereas before you just used your basic capsule shape that it gives you, we're going to go ahead and increase this a little. So we're going to increase this to like 0.8. We're going to do like 2.5. And that'll give us like a nice little collider around our capsule. You can see by these highlighted lines around that. Does everyone have that? Okay. Well, so once you get that, we're going to go back to our area 3D. And then, whereas most of the time we've been working under inspector, we're going to go to node. So here you'll see what are called signals. Signals are used to basically transmit data to like a script in like another thing when something happens. So in this case, we want to detect when something goes into that little area, which means that we've bumped into something. So we're going to go into body entered. So you'll see this here. It says body entered, and it gives like a little node response. So we're going to right click on that, and we're going to click connect. So when we do that, it's going to give us options of what things we want to connect it to. In this case, it automatically connects us to our character body 3D, which is what we want to connect to. So we're going to go ahead and click this, and that creates a new function in here, which is just for when something goes in there. Does everyone have that? Oh, yes?
How do I get there from here?
Let's see. So
Area 3D.
Oh, just go to your node, and it'll be body entered. So click on that, right click on it, do connect, and then you can just click connect because it'll, yep. Oh, yes? Mm-hmm.
So how do I do the collision thing?
Oh, go to your area 3D, go to node, then you should see body entered here, and then you right click on that, do connect, and then you can go ahead and connect it to the one with the script. So it's already connecting there. Yep. And it'll bring you back to your script. All right. So with that, we can go ahead and give a little thing to our function here. This will just be a simple thing. So we'll do if body, which is what's entering our little collision area. If that body is in group, and then we're going to call it end, then do colon. We're going to emit a alert. So os.alert, which you'll see here, basically does like a little window message, like a pop-up on your computer. So we're just going to use this just to tell the user real quick that they win. So we do os.alert, you win. And then all that needs now is for us to go back down to our little end thing. So to find that easier to get to, we're going to go back to 3D. You guys all have that little bit of script?
Still working on it.
Oh, it's okay. But what I can also do is I can just select it from here, since it should be your last rigid body you made. So you'll go down to your rigid body here, and then under node on your right side, you'll also see next to signals, you'll see groups. You'll click on groups, and then you'll go to the little entry part next to add. You're going to type end, click add, and that makes it so there's a group assigned to your little ending called end. So what will happen is when you bump into your ending, it will detect the collision with that group that is end, and then it will know that the game is ended, well, that you've won the game, and emit the alert saying you won. Does that make sense? Okay. So does everyone have that? Are you good? Okay. All right. So now that we've finally done this, we can go ahead and click play again. So we start off here in our little somewhat grassy plain. We can jump up on this cube. Go ahead and jump to the next ones. And then we get here, and it gives us a little pop-up saying we win. So that's just a very basic little game you can make. And of course, you can expand on this a lot by making it so it has some proper textures. But yeah. Is there anyone that would like this to be uploaded so you can edit this yourself? Or. Oh, okay. I'll go ahead and do that later. Yeah. But that's it for the actual tutorial. Does anyone else have any more questions or need help with anything? Oh, yes? Oh. Oh, you actually. I'll show you. So I can show us in 3D now. So you can go like to your 3D thing, and you see your little ending thing. You can click on that. So select your mesh instance. Just go to the rigid body above that, and then you see node over there. Click on groups, and then next to the add button, type in end as you typed it in the code. Then click add, and you'll have your group done. Does that make sense? All right. Any other questions? All right. I think that's good.
Alright, we got about 10 minutes left. What you want to do? You're more than welcome to. Just gonna announce the game jam topic for the next 4 weeks is going to be salon.